Okay, picture this. It is 2:00 p.m. on a Tuesday. You're in a conference room that is, for some reason, always 5 degrees too warm.
Oh, I know that room.
The coffee is definitely worn off. And at the front of the room, someone, maybe a middle manager, maybe a consultant, is pointing at a chart that looks like a bowl of spaghetti and saying, we really need to leverage our blue sky thinking to capture the low-hanging fruit.
Ugh, I think everyone listening just had a visceral, physical reaction to that sentence. It triggers something.
Right, you're sitting there nodding, trying to look engaged, but your brain is just screaming, what does any of that actually mean?
And usually we just, roll our eyes, call it corporate fluff, and move on.
But the reason we're doing this deep dive is that some scientists decided rolling their eyes wasn't enough. They decided to actually measure it.
They did. And that brings us to our source material. We're unpacking a paper published in Psychological Reports by Caitlin Ferreira and her colleagues. And the title is just, it's delightfully direct.
Right.
This place is full of it. Towards an organizational bullshit perception scale.
I genuinely love that this place is full of it is the actual academic title. It just feels so validating.
It really is.
But before we get into the fun part, the jargon, the nonsense, we need to be clear. The mission here isn't just to vent about annoying bosses, is it?
No, absolutely not. The mission is to diagnose a specific organizational illness. The researchers argue that bullshit isn't just a nuisance, it's a distinct psychological phenomenon.
So they've built a tool to measure it.
Exactly. The Organizational Bullshit Perception Scale, or OBPS, to identify it, to measure it, and, hopefully to help us reduce it, we're moving from just complaining to actually quantifying.
Putting a metric on the madness.
That's it.
All right, so if we're going to measure it, we have to define it. And this is where the paper gets really interesting right away. They aren't using bullshit as, a generic swear word for stuff I don't like.
No, they're being very precise. They're relying on the academic definition from the philosopher Harry Frankfurt. And to understand it, you have to get the difference between a liar and the bullshitter.
I think most people would assume they're pretty much the same thing.
You'd think so, but Frankfurt argues they're fundamentally different. And it's all about their relationship to the truth.
Okay.
Think about a liar. To tell a proper, deliberate lie, you have to know what the truth is.
Right. If I tell you I was at the gym when I was actually at the movies, I have to know I was at the movies. I have to hold that truth in my mind to subvert it.
Exactly. The liar cares about the truth. They care enough to hide it. They're tethered to reality even while they're denying it.
Okay. So what's the bullshitter doing?
The bullshitter is playing a completely different game. They neither know nor care what the truth is. They are completely indifferent to evidence.
So they're not trying to hide the facts.
They just don't care if their statement is true or false. Their only goal is to persuade you, or to impress you, or just to get through the meeting without looking stupid.
That is actually more disturbing than lying.
It can be. Because the liar at least acknowledges that the truth has authority. The bullshitter is just unmoored. If the truth helps their agenda, great. If not, they'll make something up. The content doesn't matter, only the effect.
It's all about impression management.
Not information transfer. And the paper points out this isn't just talking. It can be written, like those long memos that say nothing. It can be spoken. It can even be visual.
Visual bullshit.
Oh, yeah. You know those super complex diagrams with 12 arrows pointing to a cloud labeled synergy? If that chart is just there to look impressive, not to convey actual data, that's visual bullshit.
So the question to ask yourself is, are my colleagues trying to deceive me? Or are they just filling space without checking any facts?
If it's the latter, you're dealing with bullshit.
Okay, so we've got the beast defined. Frankfurt gives us the philosophy. But Ferreira and her team, they wanted to measure this in the wild. And they identified 3 distinct factors. Basically, the 3 pillars that hold up a bullshit culture.
Let's get into them.
Factor number 1. They call this regard for truth.
And this really is the foundation. This factor measures the organization's collective relationship with evidence. It asks, does this company actually care about reality?
So what does a healthy, low bullshit culture look like on their scale?
A low bullshit item would be something like, evidence must be presented to support decisions. Simple. You have an idea, you show the data, you can't just wing it.
And a high bullshit environment.
The scale item for that is, people often make assertions that they cannot support. In those cultures, strategy is based on what the researchers call hunches, anecdotes, and personal experiences.
The whole, I've been in this industry for 30 years and my gut tells me. approach.
Precisely.
Yeah.
And they say this disregard for truth usually happens for two reasons: persuasive bullshitting and evasive bullshitting.
Okay, break those down. Persuasive seems obvious.
Right. Persuasive is fake it till you make it.
Hmm.
I want to impress you. I want my project approved, so I spin a narrative. I prioritize the story over the facts.
And evasive.
Evasive is defensive. It's using fluff to dodge a hard question.
Oh, I see. Like when a project is failing and someone asks for the numbers and the manager says, we're currently in a realignment phase regarding our output metrics.
Exactly that. They're using words to avoid being pinned down. And when a company's regard for truth is low, decision-making just corrodes. The truth becomes whatever the loudest person in the room says.
It's a contest of charisma, not competence.
That is a perfect way to put it.
Which leads us perfectly into the second factor. If regard for truth is the culture, this factor is the source. The researchers call it simply the boss.
Yes. This was a very, very clear finding. The study identifies leaders as, and I'm quoting here, the most important and influential bullshitters in an organization.
Wow, is that just because they talk the most?
Partially, but it goes deeper. The researchers reference work that suggests leaders bullshit because of immense social pressure.
The pressure to have an answer for everything.
Exactly. Think of a big town hall meeting. The CEO's on stage. Someone asks a really complex question. There is a huge expectation that the leader must have an opinion.
They can't just say, you know what, I don't know, let me get back to you.
In many cultures, that's seen as a weakness. So even if they don't have the knowledge, the pressure to seem competent forces them to improvise.
And the study found that overconfidence makes it worse.
Significantly.
Mm-hmm.
High overconfidence and a belief in their own popularity makes a leader way more likely to bullshit. They start believing their own hype.
So let's look at the scale items they use to measure this. These are pretty brutal.
They're very direct. One of the key items is, my boss will say whatever it takes to pursue their agenda.
That's just pure Machiavellianism.
It is. Here's another one. Even when people don't know what they're talking about, my boss will often go along with their suggestions.
Huh. That one's interesting. It means the boss is an enabler of other people's bullshit.
It implies indifference. If the boss doesn't care about the truth, they don't care if your suggestion is true either, as long as it sounds good or solves a problem for them in that moment.
It's the path of least resistance.
Yeah. And the last big one is, my boss often says things that may or may not be true. It captures that uncertainty. As an employee, you just never know if what they're saying is grounded in reality.
If you're a leader listening, that's a terrifying mirror to hold up. Am I speaking just to fill the silence?
It's a really difficult trap to avoid. We reward visionary leaders, but a vision without data is, well, it's just a hallucination.
Or bullshit. Okay, let's move to the third factor. We have the culture, the source. Now we have the delivery mechanism. Factor 3 is bullshit language.
This is the most visible and audible part of the problem. This isn't about what is being said, but how.
We're talking about jargon, the buzzwords.
We are. The study specifically isolates the excessive use of acronyms and abstract terms as a key indicator. They list some classics, like blue sky thinking, out of the box, low-hanging fruit.
Drink the Kool-Aid.
That one too. And the researchers dig into the function of this language. Like, why do we talk this way? Why not just use plain English?
Well, I've always assumed it's to sound smart, right?
Yeah.
To sound professional.
That's the first function, for sure. Credibility. It makes the speaker sound like an insider. It signals status. But the second function is more insidious. It's designed to befuddle.
To confuse people on purpose.
Yes. If I use enough abstract concepts and acronyms, I create a defensive shield. You, as the listener, might be too embarrassed to ask what I actually mean.
Right. You don't want to be the one in the meeting who raises their hand and says, sorry, what does that acronym stand for?
Exactly. And the study calls this an exclusionary mechanism. Bullshit language acts as a barrier. If you don't know the code, you can't participate. It silences dissent because people either tune out or feel unqualified to challenge the so-called expert.
So jargon isn't just annoying, it's actually a tool for hoarding power.
In many cases, yes. It prevents clear communication, which, going back to our first factor, shows a disregard for the truth.
That connects it all perfectly. A culture that doesn't value evidence, led by a boss who fakes it, using language designed to confuse and exclude.
That is the trifecta, the total bullshit package.
Now, I do want to play devil's advocate for a second. Is it always bad? Don't you sometimes need a little blue sky thinking to get the team excited?
That's a fair point, and the researchers do acknowledge it. They mention that some forms, like banter or joshing, can build social rapport. And they admit that inspiring futuristic visions technically fit the definition.
Right. We're going to put a person on Mars is technically bullshit until you actually build the rocket.
Strictly speaking, yes. But, and this is a very big but, the study is clear that the vast majority of organizational bullshit is not the inspirational kind. It's the bad kind.
And what are the consequences of that bad kind? What does it do to people?
It's pretty grim. The research links it to significantly lower job satisfaction, increased distrust in leadership, and a real reduction in productivity.
That makes sense. If I have to spend 20 minutes decoding an email that should have been one sentence, that's lost time.
It's lost time. And another researcher, Spicer, calls it the corrosion of organizational decision-making. He says it's a waste problem that makes the organization profoundly ill.
A waste problem. What a polite way to put it.
Indeed. It just clogs up all the gears.
So if the organization is sick, how do the employees react? The paper outlines 4 standard responses, right?
Yes. From a framework by McCarthy and colleagues, the first response is the most obvious one. Exit.
You quit. You just get out.
You leave to save your sanity. But not everyone can just quit. So the second response is voice.
This sounds heroic. You stay and you speak truth to power.
You call it out. You say, "Excuse me, we need data to back that up."
That sounds incredibly risky.
Yes, especially if the boss factor is high. So many people move to the third response.
Loyalty. Loyalty sounds good, but I have a feeling it's not in this context.
No. In this framework, loyalty means you embrace the bullshit. You realize this is how the game is played, so you start speaking the language. You become part of the problem.
You join the cult to get promoted.
Exactly. You assimilate to survive. And that leaves the fourth response: if you can't quit, won't speak up, and refuse to join in, you choose neglect.
The neglect.
You disengage, you keep your head down, do the bare minimum, and just stop caring.
This is quiet quitting, basically.
Essentially, yes. A high bullshit environment is a breeding ground for disengagement. You're just waiting for the clock to hit 5.
That is a depressing list of options. It really shows why this research matters. It's not just about annoyance, it's about burnout.
Absolutely.
Okay, before we get to how to apply this, a quick word on the science itself. How robust was this study?
It's a fair question. The main study surveyed 332 people, mostly from large organizations.
Yeah.
Which makes sense, right? Big companies are breeding grounds for this stuff.
More layers for the truth to get lost in.
Correct. Now, in the spirit of regard for truth, we should note that science is messy. When they tried to validate the scale with a second group, they ran into some issues with reverse-coded items.
In simple terms.
It's when you ask a question in the negative to make sure people are paying attention. So instead of, "My boss uses jargon," you ask, "My boss speaks clearly."
And that confused the data.
It created some statistical noise. But even with that hiccup, the 3 core factors, truth, boss, and language, remained really consistent with all the existing literature. The framework holds up.
Okay, so the framework is solid. What do we do with it? How can people listening apply the OBPS tomorrow?
Well, it depends on your role. If you're an HR or you're a leader, you can use it as a diagnostic checklist. Just look around. Is communication happening without evidence?
Are senior executives the ones doing it? Is the jargon out of control?
Right. If you see these things, you have a diagnosis. You know why people are disengaging. It's not laziness. It's exhaustion from the noise.
And what if you are that leader?
That's the hardest part. You have to use it on yourself. Look at the boss factor and ask, am I contributing to this? Do I feel the need to comment on everything in a meeting?
It takes a lot of humility to admit, I might be the source of the bullshit.
It does. But the alternative is leading a team that has chosen neglect. So maybe next time you don't know the answer, just say, "I don't know." It might be the most powerful thing you can do.
And for the employees on the ground?
Use the language factor as your radar. When you get an email that's 50% acronyms, recognize it for what it is, an exclusionary mechanism.
It helps to realize, I'm not stupid. This message is just designed to be opaque.
Exactly. It takes the power away from the bullshit. And maybe, just maybe, it gives you the confidence to exercise the voice option and ask, sorry, what does that actually mean?
This has been surprisingly therapeutic. We've unpacked the 3 pillars: regard for truth, the boss, and bullshit language.
And we've learned that it's measurable. It's not just a feeling.
So as we wrap up, what's the big takeaway?
I think the most provocative thought is that bullshit is a choice. It is a choice to disregard the truth. It's not an accident. Every time we choose a buzzword over a clear explanation or a hunch over a data point, we're making the workplace a little bit worse.
We're polluting our own ecosystem.
We are. And we can choose differently.
I love that. And I want to end with the aspiration from the authors themselves. Their goal with this tool is to help structure workplaces where fewer workers have to walk out of a meeting, shake their heads, and grumble, "This place is full of bullshit."
A noble goal indeed.
Thanks for diving in with us. Now go forth and demand the evidence.
See you next time.